So this is my FMP pitch.
Nailed it.
So the theme is mental health, and more specifically eating disorders and my personal experience. But it's going to be in like a visual experimentation style, because my favourite project that we've done in the past is the visual experiment, and I've got a picture of it there. But it's not going to be exactly informative with things like statistics and facts and stuff. It's more like visually showing like what a person goes through. Video. So in this YouTube series, Mary Mary's body image and issues is more humanised, and I like how they've done this specific scene, because it like laughs at her and really plays on her insecurities. So the skills and techniques I want to develop is editing, because it's going to be a visual experimentation piece, and I'm going to work on that. And for the costume design, so for the costumes, I'm going to we're going to start out with like very colourful and happy themes, and then as she like progresses, like to get worse, it goes into like a dark colour scheme. And my aims are to raise awareness of eating disorders, and to create a short film. I don't want to limit myself to 3 or 4 minutes, but that's roughly about the time that I want, and develop the skills that I mentioned. So this is my mood board. As I said, the colour scheme goes from like light to dark, and I've got this picture.
It's okay.
As I said, it's going to be set of a lockdown, and as you can see in this image, it's like I want to show the isolation and how like that can really like affect your mental health, and like for me eating disorders. And in this image here, there's eating ice, which is a thing people with eating disorders do, because it makes you feel full, which obviously isn't very healthy. And up in the top left is a image from a film called To the Bone, which is about a woman with an eating disorder, and she goes to a place that can try and help her, but she doesn't want to get help. And I took a lot of inspiration from that movie, because it didn't like romanticize it like you can see in like quite a few different pieces that are about eating disorders. So my schedule, obviously week 1 and week 2, well, we're on week 2 now, and I've done blood catch-up and initial research. Week 2 is the pitch, so we're on schedule. For week 3, for my further research, I want to look into more videos and things that are similar to what I want to do, and practice editing, because since we haven't been in college for a lot of the things, I need to practice to do that. And planning, because I'm going to need to do a lot of planning for this, because I'm quite unorganised. And the next week I want to do filming, and hopefully I will be able to get the filming done fairly quickly and have a lot of time for editing, as long as everything goes to plan. And then the next week I want to finish the editing, and basically that whole week will be mainly for editing and possible reshoots if necessary. And then the last week I will, look over the film, maybe do some final edits and post it, and then evaluate. So the target audience I'm planning on hitting is mainly women, because as you can see, because of statistics, 90% of women are affected by eating disorders, which is ages 12 to 25. So that's like teen girl, young adult age. And obviously my perspective is coming from a teenage girl, and hopefully people can relate and also be helped from this. Some potential issues. Obviously it's a quite difficult topic to talk about for me, and I haven't really opened up about it. So this is kind of my way of working through it, I guess. But I think it might be quite difficult for me to do. So yeah, that's. But I won't. Can I have another minute?
Yeah.
So as I said, it's hard for me to talk about, but luckily since I have full control over this project, I don't have to show everything, which is what I'll do if it gets tough. And then also I'm planning on getting a camera person for some specific shots I have in mind to help me out. But obviously it's also going to be set in my room because it's in lockdown, and if I can't get somebody that's willing to come and help, that would be an issue. But hopefully I can, because I know some good filmmakers. And then obviously lockdown, which looks like it's not going to come, but you never know. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
Students first.
Alex?
Is it you acting in it then?
Yeah, probably. And then the camera person will be somebody I know.
Have you thought about what editing software you can use?
Probably Final Cut, because that's what I'm most familiar with.
You don't have any sound in it, or is it literally just visual only?
I haven't 100% decided on that. I'm debating between having a voiceover, or maybe some music, or something like that.
Sequence? Anything? I think it's a good project. I think there's lots of really positive things around it. I like that, as we've seen a kind of a few of, I guess, today and recently, is that personal projects tend to be really well made, and because you kind of already invested in it in a sense, aren't you? And I think, although you've said it's difficult, and this is the kind of first time you're kind of opening up about this, I think it'll be a really good project, and I think you can kind of find things around it, even if you get to the stage where you think actually it's a bit difficult to do that. I think there might be ways and means you can work it into something else that isn't directly about as personal, if that becomes a worry for you. Again, I've put that it's good that you're building on the kind of skills you've had from the project this year. I think it's just a short one, but I think you did a good job of that, the experimentation stuff, and the kind of your research suggests you were into it quite a lot as well, so that's a good thing. Again, making it relevant to lockdown. It might be the first project I've seen really mention the lockdown this year. Which is strange, because I thought a lot of them would. And that's a good thing, putting it in context. Darren would be loving this for themes and stuff if he was here. And it does give it a kind of sense of. I've written down there will be avenues about kind of films made in lockdown and things like that you could look at for distribution and kind of promoting the film and things like that as well. Obviously, again, it's up to you. The other things I've kind of put is that, although I think it's a good project stuff, I think, and you've got a good sense of visuals of the kind of costume and stuff, I think you might need to just start planning and working on, I know you haven't really kind of got started with this yet, but the next thing to do is kind of work out what it's got to look and sound like a bit in terms of moment to moment and things like that, because, you know, when you mention the costumes and that changing over time, I think that's really good, but you look into things like that mirror shot with the things like that. Okay. So again, it comes down to planning and why you're doing those shots and what you're trying to say with it and things. And the other thing is it's going to come down to a lot of practice and stuff as well. So if you are at home and you can use your phone for any test footage, it doesn't have to, I mean, if you want to use the camera, by all means do that. Take a camera home for the weekend and stuff. But you know, if it's just test footage, you can do whatever and try these things out and just work out angles and shots and things like that. So it's all in your favour. The only thing I haven't written down is try and research as many experimental films and things that support this kind of stuff. Because it does have a sense of narrative and things to it. So we try and find things that kind of go along with that a little bit and just to kind of support the general idea of, you know, it's a kind of art project more than a narrative piece. So make sure you've got a lot of that kind of stuff in there. But that's all my thoughts on it. It's good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Again, I'm not going to repeat everything Johnny said because it's more or less the same feedback. But yeah, it's personal and passionate, which usually is a good mix. Like, you know, when it comes to a project, like, you know, usually yields decent results. The example you showed, that the imagery was quite strong for that. I think that's a good starting point. Like, you know, obviously you don't want to copy that, like, you know, but it's a good, it's a good piece of inspiration. You come across as informative and knowledgeable. And the problems you're talking about are realistic as well. The thing I was going to pick up on as far as, you know, you worrying about, because obviously it's a personal subject and you have difficulty speaking about it, like, you know, but there's a reason, you know, people make subjects about things that are, you know, personal to them, and even, you know, like feature films that sometimes are saying something completely different, have elements in there that are to do with issues the director has, like, you know, or wants to get across or wants to work out and stuff like that. And that's because it's cathartic, like, you know, there's a reason psychologists get you to talk about things that are, you know, that you struggle with, like, you know, and I do believe filmmaking is a good avenue for that. So you might find it useful, like, you know. I'm not saying to just keep plowing on if you find it difficult, but you could find it more positive than you actually think. Okay, so from the point of view of where you need to what you need to work on, so you need to make that decision as to whether it does or does not have a narrative, like, you know. And bizarrely enough, that is just trying to work out, you know what you want to talk about, but now you need to work out what you want to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As far as, you know, what is it that I want the audience to get across? Now, how that is, you put that across is entirely up to you. Like, you know, whether you do that in an experimental way and visually through themes and stuff like that, or whether you do it in a more traditional way. You know, I mean, I love visual storytelling, so the more you can do it visually, the better. Like, you know, but that to me, that's the only thing that we haven't found out yet. We kind of know what you want to talk about, but not what you want to say. Like, you know, what you want to say about it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I'll be thinking about right now. I think you possibly need a little bit more time for filming. Within that week, I mean, I think because if you imagine you're going to start editing that week as well, I think that's probably only giving you about 3 days for filming, which, even though a 3 to 4 minute film is fairly ambitious, like, you know, depending, I mean, you might get it done, but I would just give yourself a little bit of space there. And the thing I would look at is when you're doing, because you were talking about developing your editing skills and stuff like that, so you were talking about colour grade, not colour, I'm going to say colour grading, just foreshadowed. You were talking about your costume design, like, you know, and how that colours are going to change. So I would look at, you know, the colour grading in post-production, like, just to complement that, like, you know, so that you know, your colours can become more muted and more desaturated as you move along, like, you know. And you may even look at possibly, you know, looking at things you maybe want to keep. You know, you could do something, you know, like the Eisenstein effect, where you keep one color there for some reason if it's you know, if it's saying something about the scene. You know, like in Schindler's List, where you girl with the red coat. You seen Schindler's List?
It's a black and white film, and then they've got a girl with a red coat to make her stand out and
Basically, what it
say about it.
you see her, Schindler's List is all about the Holocaust, right? And you see this little girl in a red coat holding her mother's hand earlier on in the film, and I think you see her running down the street as well at some point. And then later on, like it's a 3-hour film, but an hour later into the film, they're showing all the dead bodies being wheeled out in the trucks, and you see this little body with a red coat on, like, you know. So it's doing that kind of thing, like, you know. So, but I think messing around, if you're going to look at, you know, colours from a costume design point of view, you might as well go kind of the whole hog, and like look at it from a colour grading point of view as well, like, you know. Anything else? I don't. You should. Yeah, you need a camera person.
Yeah.
So you need to. You guys need to kind of be helping each other out in those kind of situations as well. Like, you know. So I don't think that should be an if. I just think that should be a who, if that makes sense. Like, you know. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just same as Johnny, research, look at things that inspire you. Think about what it is you want to look at from an editing point of view for next week. Like same as last week, as I said, if you come up with targets for what you want to hit for next week, I can help you with that on Thursday. So we can do a class of Final Cut Pro, but if you know going into that, because you already know how to edit it. So what we need to know now is what it is you want to develop. What is it you want to specifically look at? You want to shall we look at some color grading? Shall we look at, you know, some trimming? Shall we look at some effects work or something like that? Because that's the other thing. Like with that kind of effect that you were showing, is like, you know, you might be you can probably do it in Final Cut, but you maybe want to do it in After Effects. You might try a couple of different ways. Like, you know, so there's options there, I think. Yeah, other than that, it's a good project. I think it'll be really good. I'm excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah. But the last thing I'll say is, because you're working in the realm of experimental film, is really look at lots of stylized stuff. You know, look at music videos, look at kind of like art films and things, but really just, you know, even look at editing examples of it, what you can do with Final Cut or After Effects, whatever you want to use, to work out, you know, you can chuck a lot at this. And that's fine. You know, if you were doing a traditional narrative, maybe it wouldn't work so much. But experimental film really lets you to do whatever in terms of sound and visuals and everything. So a lot of this might just be really not scattergun, because that's a bad word, isn't it? But kind of a really tangential kind of research of like, I saw this music video, whatever from. I'm trying to think of a good example there, but I can only think of Marilyn Manson, and I don't like him, so I don't want to mention his name. He's a real creep, isn't he?
Sure, yeah.
But you know, his kind of old music videos, that kind of style, have very like extreme visuals to them and stuff, and but they are still feel like they're dealing with some things in the same area. Now he's very much dealing with, but I suppose more to do with like being an outsider and stuff. But you know, I'm just saying it lets you look at all those kind of things. You know, don't feel like you're limiting yourself to just narrative and stuff for this, because you say experimental film, it just opens up the whole world to you in terms of what, like we said earlier, what can be an inspiration to you can literally be like anything you see, any colours, shapes, anything like that. You can all talk about on your blog, so it'll give you a lot to kind of cover, which don't see that as an intimidating thing. I see that as an opportunity. Yeah. Any final thoughts from you guys? No? Cool. Thank you very much, Beck.